What's up, everyone? Make sure you check out the West West Network website at westwestnet.com. Here you can find amazing independent podcasts based in Aotearoa, covering everything from pop culture to mental health. Also, if you enjoy our content and want to support us, please consider clicking on the support button on the homepage of the website. We appreciate your patronage and look forward to delivering more thought-provoking and quality conversations.
West, y'all.
Michael, welcome to the podcast, bro.
Thank you. I think this is the third time we've tried to get it done, and now we're finally here.
It was the third time. I remember the second time you actually got to the driveway, managed to get out the car, and you had to go home because you were sick. But it was all good. It was all good because I think a lot of people around New Zealand were sick at that time with the COVID spread. Because I got COVID. I'm not sure if it was close to that time you came the second time, but it was around that time. And man, I actually got that long COVID. Is that the one that, because you called it too, eh?
Yeah. So I think it from all the people that I know have caught it has affected everyone quite differently, and even now I've still got symptoms of it. Like just talking, I'll lose my breath. And then I might start in the coughing fit, so just be prepared.
Oh, shucks. Because that is a long COVID then. Because that's what they were saying, like, that can be after effects. And I got that for a week afterwards, was the initial flu, which was, to me, felt like the normal flu. I just did the test, the rat test thing, and it was positive. Then, okay, that's not so bad, I'm just got normal flu. It just feels like a normal flu. So that lasted for 3 days. And then the fever went away, the blocked nose went away, but then it's just this constant tiredness, like a deep tiredness, like I never felt before, for a whole week after that. And it was like I tried to explain it to my workmates when we went back to work, because they were asking me, what was it like? What was it like? Because obviously they never got COVID yet. I was like the second one in my work. But anyway, the best I could describe it was like, have you had a heat stroke before? Like when you're out in the sun and get heat stroke, it felt like that. It felt like a severe case of heat stroke where you're just really heavy and you're just constantly tired and you can't do anything. Like as soon as you lift a finger, that's half your energy of your whole week gone. And it was out of an experience, and I really hated the day. It was really bad. Like I just felt nauseous. Wanted to spew up, but I couldn't. Just tired, and can't do nothing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I had was after I'd recovered from like the flu stuff, I remember just sitting there watching TV and going, I need to go to sleep. Why do I need to go to sleep? And it's like all of a sudden I'm asleep. It's like, how did that happen? I was telling myself not to fall asleep, but your body just put yourself down, and it's like then you wake up and it's like, I've just been asleep. I can't believe it. It's like, what's the time? It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, so you still got like some fix in that. Oh,
yeah, 100%, yeah.
Man, it's like, I don't know, because I remember when I got over it, especially the long COVID, because it's called long COVID, eh? I felt like you can open the borders now. I'm all right, I'm free. There's nothing to worry about. Open the borders. And I felt like that afterwards because people were just people had enough of all the lockdowns or the restrictions and that, and even though we've got down to orange light, you're supposed to wear a mask when you're in the supermarket, at the doctors. People are relaxed now.
I think they were relaxed, but at the same time, like I don't know about you, but we were really paying attention to all the numbers that were coming out, and so we were there for the 1 o'clock updates and listening to it and just looking at the numbers and just trying to understand how we were supposed to go into this peak and then it was supposed to plateau. But even now, like looking at the numbers, they're still very high numbers. It's just that people aren't talking about it as much. And then now that the borders are open, we can see people turning up, just like I see family members that didn't even know were coming are sitting over the North Shore. Like, I didn't even know you're coming. You're here.
Yeah, because I see Samoa's opening up their borders in August.
Oh yeah.
So now we can go. When was the last time we went there?
That would have been probably 2017, I think it was. Yeah. About 5 years ago. I went with my mum because I went for my salfai over in Salelonga. So it was a big event for it, and like didn't really know what to expect. And like my mum was talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, it's all about you. And then I think we had like maybe 16 Mackay on the same day. It's like, oh, it's not all about me. So like all my cousins and family were here as well, and they were getting Mackay titles as well. It's like, oh, this is awesome. But yeah, definitely an experience, but a whole a privilege just to be gifted the title that I was gifted from my mum, which also kind of was a privilege for her to be able to gift our family title to me from her grandfather.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, my dad. Sorry, her dad.
Yeah. Man, it's so awesome to go back home, Go back to the islands, especially for a holiday. You know, like you always don't want to come back home afterwards. Yeah, it's relaxing.
Yeah, and people are so different. Like they're so grateful for the smallest of things that appreciative of it. And I remember sitting there watching a couple of the little kids playing, and it's like they were spending. I sat there for about an hour, and I was just watching these two little kids playing with not a car, not a toy car, but the wheel of a car.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can these kids be just excited playing with just the wheel? And our kids at home are like, where's that? My controller's broken. What do I do now?
Yeah.
Life has stopped for me, kind of thing.
That's a good point, and that's interesting, and that's really cool that we're reminded of about life when we see that kind of stuff, especially when we go back to Samoa, because sometimes we don't appreciate some of these things that we take for granted, living in New Zealand and with technology.
Yes.
But now it's all good. I think because I had the privilege and to go over there to work for 6 months, and it was really cool, man. It was sort of like paradise, working paradise, like your family's all there, you're not bored because you can go to anyone's house and, just a lot of things to do, and work was just easy.
I guess my experience of Samoa was a little bit different to yours, where, I always felt like they treated us differently. And even though we wanted to be out in the, helping with the umu, was like, no, you guys have to go sit inside. It was like, so we wanted to be part of the natural life, but at the same time, it was just their way of thanking us for, because at the end of the day, they know how much we give back as well. So they appreciate it when we come over, and they also want to show us that alofa that back in as their way of thanking us too.
Yeah. So any plans to go back when the borders open?
Funny, my auntie May, her birthday's on the 1st of May.
Oh yeah.
Which is why she's her name's May. And so last night I get a phone call while I'm at rugby training. My sisters had FaceTimed Auntie May to talk to her, and that was the first thing she asked me. She goes, "Oh, when are you coming back?" "Oh, Auntie, Christmas sounds good." Christmas, yeah, not which Christmas, but Christmas sounds good.
Man, it feels like, because it's been 2 years we've been stuck in this country. Like, man, people just gotta go now. Like, everyone's got that itch now. Everything's calming down with the COVID around the world. There's probably a few countries that you can just go and just start traveling again, because I don't know, because I always thought that it's going to be a long time before things get really back to normal, like before COVID started, especially around the world, like especially going back to the islands and stuff.
Well, one of my boys has just come back from Hong Kong, so he was during our red level, and as soon as the borders dropped, one of my other boys who came back because of COVID, his partner's in the UK, so they hadn't seen each other for about 2.5 years. So he booked a flight. He's already been and back for, like, he was over there for 3 weeks. So, where there's a will, there's a way, and they'll find the way, and they'll get to travel. Yeah.
As you talk about COVID over there in Hong Kong, because isn't China like strict on there? Or is it Shanghai? Hey, Shanghai, they're really strict there.
Yeah,
With
there's
the lockdowns and that.
there's definitely I'd say a lot of closed doors around information that's coming out of the Asian areas. So I know that like Daniel, even though he was in Hong Kong, there was definitely areas in Hong Kong where you wouldn't actually go because it had already been like locked down itself. But because of the he was in an area where there was quite a high high population of overseas expats, so it wasn't as bad for them because but the Asian people, if they're told to wear a mask, they wear a mask. They don't ask questions, they just do what they're told, and that's also something that's helped them. Yeah.
So is he working over there, or is he playing sport? Or?
No, he's playing rugby over there.
Oh, is he? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been, because the Sevens is there still a venue?
I think they did have.
I know they did Singapore.
Yeah, they haven't opened Hong Kong back up yet,
Okay. Yeah.
but they did have a version of it, but it was like an Asian version.
Mm. How big is rugby over there, Hong Kong? Is it? How's the structured, the clubs in that? Like?
It's massive. There's not as many clubs like the competition that Daniel was playing in was like 6 teams. Most of it's filled with expats. There's a real urgency to get their development in for their own Hong Kongese players. The women's game's growing really fast over there as well, but a lot of it is influenced by overseas. So they've brought in people to try and support them to develop. In a sense, they're trying to develop so that they can keep up, not with the rest of the world, but to keep up with Asia, because Asia's got quite a big rugby community itself. Yeah,
Especially in Japan. Yeah. Man, because I've been watching some of the Sevens. It's good to see them play again. Especially Samoa, man. Did you watch Samoa games?
Samoa's like he live in the dark horse of this year, especially because they had a bit of that's just normal growing pains for the new team, new coaching staff, but they've definitely come through and they're really starting to. You can see the fruit in their labour coming through, and they've played some awesome rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been real strong, eh?
Yeah.
Been real fit and real strong. Yeah, they've been come close to beating New Zealand a few times, eh?
And even the fact that when you look at them, it's for us, they would be like no names. We don't know these. They're players that we've never seen before, and again, but the fact that I think one of the commentators, they just talked about the heart of Samoa, that they play with above their weight range, because they're quite a small team, but honestly their talent just shows.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember the article that came out about the training regime.
Yeah.
That Brandy Ma was,
Yeah.
and it was sort of like controversial way because it was
Yeah.
sort of like too hard out. I think they were taking phones away and not feeding them, but it's working. It's working. I mean, look how they're playing.
I watched the so they did an interview with Brian. They did an interview with him maybe a month or two afterwards, and for every controversial thing that they talked about, there was an answer and a why it happened. And one of the ones that I thought was funny was the food restrictions, they took food away from them. But then if when Brian talked about it, it's like, we took the food away because they used someone outside the hotel to order food in, and part of the isolation restrictions is they can't use externals. They have to use the hotel caterers, and it's like, so that wasn't us. That was us just playing by the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, See, I never heard that. So
Yeah.
it's good to hear the other side of it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, that makes sense then. If we see both sides of a story,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Because that was a scathing report when I read the article.
massively.
It came in social media. Everyone was, all my boys were passing it on in the chat. Like, man, look at this. Like, man, how sad can you be? But yeah, see, you have to know what both sides of the story are. Yeah, bloody media. But whatever Hideout training, because I always thought when I saw them play with heart, and how tough they were, how they're fast, they're tough. Just need to maybe strategic things, maybe to get right. But they got the physicality, they got the mentality, and they got the speed. So they've got all those things to win the whole tournament.
The more time they'll spend together, the better it'll be for them. And you look at the teams that are on the circuit at the moment. A lot of them are established teams. They've been playing together for a long time. Even with New Zealand, like you look at New Zealand, it's still an established team. There's still a big core that they take, and then they bring in new players. So, the team of the future is going to be Samoa in 2 years' time.
Yeah, and these will be household names soon.
Yeah.
Just like Fiji was when Serevi was there, like all those years that he played became a household name and stuff. So. Yeah, that's cool, and it's cool that these are local players too. So it's people from the island, that we can finally look up to when they step on the field. But yeah, man, it's good. It's good to see other countries come up too. Like Kenya had their time. I think USA is pretty strong now. Australia, we all bag Australia for 15 game, but they're pretty good in the sevens.
They're pretty good in the sevens. Yeah. Probably USA is going to be. Probably the one that's going to be the toughest to beat, with the way that they're developing their team. So you can definitely see that they're developing on speed, and in a game of sevens, speed is the winner. And if they've got speed, size, everything else will start clicking together.
Yeah, I'm gonna get your thoughts on USA Rugby for a minute, because there's always talk of them being a sleepy giant all the time. And I think it's because of the way the NFL is and the money they've got. And, their programs, and especially with American football, baseball, and basketball. And, in a lesser degree, soccer's come up now. They've got the soccer. But, and that's why I think that's where the saying sleeping giant comes from, because we know what they can do with those sports. I think rugby is a different story, because rugby will be in competition with NFL, with the player type, and NFL's got more money, so they'll eat them up, I think. So I think I don't know if I'm wrong, but I don't know what your thoughts on that, but I don't think it's a case of a sleeping giant. I think it's a case of trying to put rugby in the forefront of, or on the same level as past soccer, up to where NBA is in NFL, which I think won't happen.
Personally, I think that when you think about NFL, college football, high school football, it's all driven by this pyramid. You have a big base of players, and then each time you take the next step up, you'll lose a number of players as you keep going up, and then it's only that cream of the crop that gets into the NFL. So what happens to all the other players? Very similar to here in New Zealand with First 15. We've got a real big build-up of player base with our First 15 across all schools, and then as they take the next step up, some will come through, but what happens to the other ones? And they're the ones that we're really looking for at club level. With USA Rugby, I see a lot of converts that are starting to come through, and then it's just a mindset shift that they have to go through. It's not especially if you've built your whole life to be an NFL player, and now you've got to reassess where is your next step going to be. And rugby provides that opportunity, because they get to use these same skill sets that they've been working on for all those years. So the value of rugby will be as the alternative to being in a professional American football career could be something that they see. I think the other side of it is it's a global game. Again, it's opening up a different market that people wouldn't normally see. Like you don't necessarily go out and play American football anywhere else in the world. It's a little bit bigger in Japan. There is a good Japanese league, and back in the late 90s, there was a good European league as well. But from what I've seen, it seems to have come all back to the States, where rugby is definitely going to provide that next step. Then it's going to come down to dollars. Who's the financial backing for this? Which is why we've seen, the biggest shift for mindset for All Blacks was to actually put a sponsorship logo on their chest. That was massive for them. But where did it come from? It came from a major sponsor. It wasn't. Those weren't dollars and cents. Those were massive amounts of money that made that mind shift. So and then and giving back, that's why we've got these games happening in the States. It's all part of that promotion. So that's all a build up for it.
If the USA gets, like say, most of the players due to the players that fall off the NFL wagon and got as an alternative come down, and then you're right. After that is the money side of things. So I think what they've got at the moment, good starting off point with their Major League Rugby, the MLR they've got there. Just build on that with those kind of players that come down.
Yeah, and then even in saying that, so before MLR kicked off, they really started putting in a lot of effort to develop their high schools, to put rugby into their college program. So there's a whole heap of work that's it's like all that unseen work that's happening in the background, where you'll see now MLR take on some of, because they talk about they're doing draft for MLR across colleges. Where
really?
Yeah,
they're doing that?
Yeah, they're doing that, and it's what? Do they have the player base for that? And then you look at the MLR at the moment, I almost see it, and these are all my personal reflections too. It's not something that that people should take seriously. It is what it is. But I see MLR as almost 80% is foreigners within that. And because we even at Ponsonby we lost I think there's maybe 6 players over there
From the club?
From the club,
yeah.
who are also Auckland Rugby players as well, are playing over there at the moment. Yeah, so
Because when does their season start? It's obviously it's outside our NPC season.
yeah, so their season I think started back in I'm saying February. It started quite early, and they should all be done and dusted by May.
Okay.
Which is the reason why some of our NPC players have taken the option that where they didn't make the Super Rugby team, they can still play professional rugby overseas and playing in MLR, and it's good for the unions as well, because those players get to play high level rugby during their off season, and they come back ready to go.
Yeah, that club connection with overseas is really important, and I learned that when Nigel Chang he came on, and he was talking about how Waitakere has those contacts overseas with coaches going over to coach other club teams in overseas UK, but they have that connection, then they probably get players to go. So all these pathways for a professional job.
Well,
in rugby overseas,
I talk about my boys, and I've got 3 boys that are still heavily involved in rugby, and they've used rugby as a vehicle to travel the world. So for me, because so my wife's Croatian, and so one of my boys, he ended up going over there, and he went to play rugby in the Netherlands, and it's when he told me, it's do they play rugby in the Netherlands? It's yes, Dad, yeah, and they've got a competition. I'm okay, well, good on you. Go create memories, and it's an opportunity. But then, a guy from Waitakere called me and said, "Hey, I know your son's overseas. and I know that your wife's Croatian. Do you think he would play for Croatia?" And so I rang him, and the coach contacted him, and he goes, "Hey, come down and you can trial." So he ended up playing 2 seasons for Croatia.
Oh, really? Like the country? So he can't play for any other country now?
So, well, he's because he's had COVID, has helped him because now he's stood down for 3 years, so he's eligible
yeah,
again.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that rule that they.
Yep. So yeah, he ended up traveling half of Europe, playing for Croatia because he ended up making the 15s and their 7s team. So he was on the 7s circuit for Croatia as well. It's like, I'm getting messages from him, and it's like, you're visiting places that are on my bucket list, and you're doing it for free. And it's like, far out, son. And then I've got another son who played some. He did his tutorship over in Ireland, and ended up playing a bit of rugby in Ireland. Travelled a bit of the UK. Came home, did a season here, and then ended up going to Hong Kong, and did a season over in Hong Kong. And while he was in Hong Kong, got contacted by Northland to come and play up in Northland. Ended up playing an NPC season for Northland last year. So again, it's not the normal way of doing your normal pathway to rugby, but people are doing it, and they're finding ways of still doing what they love, and creating and opening doors at the same time.
It's probably cool that rugby is New Zealand's #1 sport because it allows these pathways to happen.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's something that probably, I don't know, I'm just speaking back when I was in school. There's no one that tells you this is a pathway. This is just play for your school, play because you enjoy the game, but you enjoy the game without any future ahead for it. If you know what I mean. And these days, like, see all these names that go overseas, when get contracts to play overseas, that probably go all the way to club level, and then take off overseas before they even get a chance to play NPC or Super Rugby, go through that pathway. But 5 years down the track, they've been all over around the world, earning a lot more money than they would job out down here.
A lot of the attraction to New Zealand is the prestige of playing for our New Zealand teams, and I know that the Japanese market has opened up so much that the attraction for the dollar in Japan, in the UK, France, is definitely going to be a draw for a lot of our players. So probably the player that I would relate that to more than anyone else is Charles Piutau. At the pinnacle of being at the highest level of New Zealand rugby, made the decision to go overseas with the intention of supporting his family. So that's when you know that for sport, it's only a small window in your life, and you've got to make the most out of it. And he made that decision, which was courageous on him. But at the same time, a lot of people would have been looking and going, "Charles, you could have been an All Black for the next 10 years." Once it's like you've done that, so what's next? Yeah. For my generation, when I was growing up, sport was never part of our career conversation. It was always education, and and I remember how hard my parents were on us around education, and we've done well, but I would say I had a tough time in my high school years and didn't do as well as I should have. I got by, but I made the decision to move to Oz straight after school, just to start a fresh life, and then it was only when I came home in my 40s that I decided, actually my sister decided for me, you should go back to uni. You should go to uni. I said, why? I was like, well, you've been doing the same thing for the last 20 years. This is your chance. And it's like, I'm so thankful to my sister for pushing me, because I ended up getting a degree, ended up changing my whole career path. And
what were you doing before in Australia?
While I was here, I was like every typical island kid that found a job in retail. So I used to work at the food town up in Greyland. Did that I got a job when I was 15, and so I was doing work and school at the same time. When I left school, when I got to Oz, retail was real easy to get a job in. So I ended up getting a job and doing a few management courses and ended up managing stores over in Oz. And I did the same thing when I came back here for a couple of years before I jumped onto to going back to study.
Oh, okay. And then what were you studying? Communications or?
No, so I've always had a passion for sports, and I'd been doing a bit of coaching. I did a bit of coaching while I was in Oz, and then I did a bit of coaching over here. And I thought, this would be a good time to, if I was going to look at my career path, do something that's I'm passionate in. So I did a bachelor in sports and coaching, and going into my first year, like my whole focus was that I'd become a professional coach. And I remember my first two lectures one was on psychology and the other one was on anatomy, and I was thinking, I'm here for a coaching degree. When do I go to the field? But ended up doing my 3-year degree, and I think the big thing that I realized during that is that you go in that one door, but then you come out and you've got multiple doors in front of you. So I never expected to come out with a coaching degree, and then I ended up doing a postgrad in teaching, and then I ended up getting a job at Sport Waitakere. So it led me down a different path, but it's a path where I think I've fallen into something where I'm actually, it's part of my DNA, and it's probably part of your DNA as well. Service to our community is always part of our Pacifica community, our DNA, and the role that I'm doing is very much our service to the community.
So, working for Sport Waitakere, I've heard of them for a long time. How long have they been around?
So I think we celebrated our 30th year last year.
Okay, yeah.
And I've been working for them for the last 9 years. And when I got my job with them, I had no idea what they did.
Yeah.
I had no idea. But there was a couple of good definitions I got from different people. Like, Sport Waitakere, they must take care of all the pro athletes in West Auckland. Or they run major sporting events. It's like, and then when I got to actually join the team, it's like they don't do any of that. It's like, what do they do? I was like, well, they serve the community, but they serve the community in the way that and this is me talking my Sport Waitakere talk is like, they serve the community by responding to the community's needs. Not coming in with this is how you do it, and we want you to do the same thing. It's like, actually, we want to know what you do, and then we can help you better kind of approach.
Through sport.
Yep. Sport, active recreation is a big thing now. Something that is quite a new area for me to kind of think about, because I've always thought of it as a natural thing, is play. Play is a part of it as well. And like I was telling you before we started, sitting in Samoa outside the Papalii and just watching two little kids play, not with a whole toy car, but just the wheel of a car. And they spent an hour just playing between themselves as this wheel. Is like, that's their version of play. I've seen many different versions of play, whether it be in a cultural sense or a formal structured sense, like with rugby and stuff. But it's quite unique when you take away your perceptions of it and you leave yourself open to seeing it in its raw form.
So when you say we're not going to tell you what to do, we're going to let the people tell us where to go.
Yeah.
So say when, like, that's a analogy with that kid with the wheel. So okay, you guys like playing with wheels? We'll help you play more with wheels.
Well,
How does it work? Like through sport? Like I'm trying to think because when I think, because I'm really like narrow-minded. Like sport, I think of just rugby, basketball, soccer.
Yep.
But I'm not including like cycling, outdoor
Yep.
activities, play.
Yep.
Like playing in the playground.
Yep.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what kids do in their spare time. Bar playing PlayStation all day, outside playing hit and roll. I don't think they play hit and roll anymore.
Yeah.
Kids.
Oh, they do. They do.
Do they?
Yeah. I think the thing that, like, when you think about what we do is, so for example, there's so many different levels of what we do, and there's also it's like a spider web. So our team will be working on their own thing, but at the same time, it's connected to someone else's work or multiple people's work across our group. So when that one person's working on that, they're actually helping other people with their work at the same time.
So how does that engagement start in the beginning? How does it start for each of you in your team, like to engage in the public? How does that start?
A lot of it comes down to schools are a controlled environment, so you know that, like, because I work in the school area, like I'll always know that my first point of contact is going to be a principal, where in the community it could be someone that is not necessarily the chair or the president of a club, but the coach in the club, and which gives you access to the rest of that sub community within the club. So
I'd say parents and
yep,
of the kids and
yep,
people.
yep.
Yeah.
And then like
Cool.
like if you're thinking about like juniors and so who are the main influences of those junior groups? Is it the club, the coach, or the parents? And then so when you kind of realize that, like, the child themselves is restricted on the choices that are given to them by the influences on that child. That's where you want to try and make change, like, make changes to support. So I always look at it as like, if you have, there's been massive campaigns around behaviour on the sideline, and so it's not the kids that we need to change. It's how we support our kids as spectators, as coaches, to be able to play their game. And like, no one goes there to shout at someone else's kid. When you go down to the field, you're going down there to support your kid. It's just in the way that you support your kid, maybe not necessarily the way other people would like you to support your kid. So I'm sure you've done it, and as many other parents have, like, or all grandparents have turned up to watch a game and go, "Hey, I'll give you $1 for every try you score."
Yeah.
So the intention is that you're going to do, it's something good for the kid to reward the kid, but what you've done is you've actually changed the dynamic of the kid playing.
No, he's greedy.
Yeah. Now he's holding on to the ball because he wants to score more tries to get more dollars. And then how many other kids have been told the same message who turn up on game day? Is like, actually, I could come out of this and I've got money in my pocket. It's for every kid. So they lose the dynamic of actually playing the game, because that we've changed the goal for them. Rather than just being there to have fun, we've told them to go score a try to get $1.
So this little situation you've like identified, then that's when you come in and help
Yep.
that situation.
Yep, lots of information. It's not something where like we can make recommendations to help support change, and that could be just like having a conversation with a group of adults outside that space. It could be information that we share through a video. It could be information that we share through by talking to the club chair and the development coaches for all the juniors. So it's a philosophy that is embedded by making little changes that make out big changes.
When we talk about the guy that's greedy, like he's trying to win that one game, and not worried about. He's not thinking about, you got to win a series of games, so you got to help your team play. It's like a team thing. You got to always, you can't be that guy.
Well, you can't be that guy, but at the same time, then there's stuff that and I can use myself as a real life example. I remember going to watch my kids play. Intention was just to support them as much as I can, but then on the ride home, how many times have you been
Be the coach.
yeah, you're coaching them as why did you do this and why didn't you do that? And it's and they're sitting in the car as do they want to get in the car with you anymore? Because they know it's coming. So how can we change that? And one of the things that's really kind of changed me in the way I approach going to watch my kids play is that I'm there as a parent first, and I tell them that I'm here to enjoy them playing, not to judge them, not to coach them, but I just want them to have fun. And then my experience has actually improved for watching them play, because now it's not about those goals of winning the game. It's how did you go in the game? Did you enjoy the game? How did you interact with your mates? And you'll see it is that the teams that look at scoreboards are probably the teams that will not share their happiness as much whether they win or lose. You can see it in the way their culture is within their own group. Is it a positive culture, or is it a culture where they start picking on each other as soon as something goes wrong?
Like blaming one kid for losing the game if he drops the ball or something like that. Last second.
Yeah, or stop passing to him. It's why didn't you pass to him? It's because he always drops the ball. You never give him a chance, and you got to make those changes. Yeah.
I've heard over social media and things I've read about when political correctness gets into the games, the sports.
Yeah.
With the the participation awards.
Yep.
You just get everyone gets an award. Do you believe in that sort of thing? Do you believe in, or there was a case in America where they don't have a scoreboard for the soccer game because they don't want kids when they lose to be sad, at the end of the game. I don't know, because when I think about competition, us as human beings, we need to know where we're at, to climb that hierarchy,
I think because I've come through two different systems. I've come through that system where it's a win at all cost system, and I've also come through a system where the result isn't the defining factor. One of the things that because again it's something that I've experienced through my own learnings is that having really good intentions, and we've talked about giving positive reinforcement to a child when they're playing, and the intention is that you're creating a healthy environment for them to develop. But then I've also heard it on the opposite side where they talk about it as that you're creating a false sense of security for them, because every time you're telling them they're doing so well, that's what they assume well looks like. So they start relating to that when in actual fact that version of well is not the well that's everyone else has got their benchmark to. So
is there a balance? Is there a system where it balances both?
There is, and I think the balance is that it takes it back down to why you want to be part of whatever you're doing. There has to be something where there's a connection for that person to be there. You can only have be told so many times before you go, actually I've had enough, and you'll walk away. Where a person that's self-motivated to do it will continue on doing it.
Yeah, because that's what you want to filter out in the end of the day. Those kids that that love what they do, and then they get to that level where they stop at nothing to get to the top or be the best.
Yeah, so they're creating their own benchmarks when they turn up, and that's what motivates them. It's not so much like, it's not the dollar that's at the end of the day. It's more about them just making themselves better. So, and by making themselves better, they actually lift everyone else around them at the same time.
I guess it's trying to harness that competitiveness in kids.
Yeah.
Whatever sport you're coaching, or whatever sport your kid chooses to play. Like as a parent, like you see the extremes with I don't know if you heard of LeVar Ball with his ball kids. How he sort of talked them into going to the NBA, talked them into existence, sort of thing. But that's those parents that want to live their dreams through their kids.
Yeah.
Get those parents, and then sometimes the kid gets to a stage where nah, that's not me.
One of the, because I'm very lucky that my kids are very sporty kids, but one of the things that I really kind of talk to them about is that that sport isn't their identity. If you take away sport, they're still a human. They're still them as an individual, and I want them to understand that, when I come down, I'm not there to support my rugby kid. I'm there to support my kid. Whether he be playing rugby or if he's at the beach, or if he's standing at a barbecue cooking food, we're there to support our kids the way they are, and that we want them to feel that, and I've seen it so many times in the way sport has churned players out and what drops off. So having that balance of not creating identities where that's their only identity is going to be the thing that makes a difference to our community. A really good example of that is with rugby league. I know that Aussie's been coming across and taking our young kids, as young as 13, across to as the new best thing, because that's where they are at their age group. But that doesn't mean they're going to be the best thing when they're 18, 19, 20. That's just where they are in their development stage. And so, we've had a number of families who have banked on their kid being the next best thing, and then all that pressure is, where does it come? Where does it end? And that's why we've had kids who have turned away from the game, because they've just had too much pressure on them, too much expectation, put on the kids, and they've lost the fun of the reason of being part of that game, and so what I really want to do, and I've seen organisations that are really focused on that, and even our ex-professional players have come back to give back to our communities, is picking up the ones that are left behind, the ones who have been given the dream, and then they get to under 20s, they turn 21. There's a new batch of kids coming through under 20s, and they're just cut then and there. And it's like, well, what happens to them? Well, we're the ones that are now picking up the pieces to try and help them.
I think rugby league in ways is an extreme case, because like you said, like how kids get under that big pressure of performing, and they're forced by their parents. Even those cases where those kids committed suicide up in Brisbane and in Sydney, which is sad.
It's and again, there's so many things that we can help them with that are preventable before it gets to that situation. Like I said, if we treat our kids that they're and we give them the identity where they understand themselves, and we're giving them the opportunity to understand themselves, then they won't place their identity on a sport that actually is only a small part of their life.
Because when we talk about helping these kids, I feel like maybe the NRL, if it's the NRL, have responsibility as well. Yeah. I know they hired Nigel Vangana to look after the island kids, what to do with their money, because they don't know how to spend their money in that. He does that liaison. He's that liaison guy for the Pacific Island kids over here too. So yeah, it's when you get to the big money business there, like the NRL.
Well, yeah, then they're no longer people. They're just numbers on a sheet, and then it comes down to performance, and like they're looking at, at data rather than looking at the human themselves. So, when you kind of like, when it does get to that point, then you really gotta have a support network around you to keep you grounded, because, again, it's like, the people around you will shape who you're going to be for that part of your life. And, if like a good example is Reece Walsh, and the bit of trouble that he got into beginning of this year. Again, who was around him to protect him from and help him with his choices, because those are the people that you need to make sure, especially when they have success so early, that you put people there to help protect him, and sometimes protect him from himself. Is a big part of it too.
I think Benji Marshall had that protection when he was younger. Eh? That's why he saved all his money.
Well, I see it more here in our rugby union players, especially our Pacific Island players, that they have learnt a lot of lessons. There was an article quite recently around with, I think it was Ofa Tungawhasi, how he's entered the property market. If you knew back then how much your house was going to cost, 20 years ago, you would be buying 4 houses in West Auckland, or you wouldn't sell your house in Grey Lynn because you know how much it will be this now. Again, it's just having the right people around to advise, not to tell, but to advise, and to provide the big picture.
It's an interesting point you said, how there's that point where when you're a professional player, the league you play for just look at you as a body, as a number. Not so. When do they start realizing that, or how young, or when do these kids start realizing that they are just a number, and you're in professional sport. Your what you gotta do is to train, look after your body, make sure you last as long as you can, because if there's an injury that cancels your whole rugby career, what have you got to fall back on?
I think now, and it's probably a message that's been shared across a number of different sports, is just like, have a plan B. Even with our NFL example, all those kids, they have to go through a college system. All those kids are now treated as academics first, rather than just being a sports student. So stuff that's happening over here is very similar. There's definitely always going to be things that fall through the cracks, but the responsibility comes down to, for the child themselves, is that we are their caretakers. We are the ones that are there to give them guidance. We are also the ones that will help, that will receive guidance if we're willing to accept it. If you're the parent that is there for the well-being of your child with whatever they're doing, then you will accept guidance as part of it, as part of protecting your child. Yeah.
We're working for Sport Waitakere. Like, from when you started until now, what changes have you seen, or what are some of the things that have grown from when you started till now?
I think the biggest change for me is so I grew up with a very Samoa upbringing, and then when I moved across to Australia, so I lived in Sydney for about 12 years, and maybe 10 years, and then 8 years in Canberra. And Canberra is very similar to Christchurch. to people polite, it's we were one of two Pacific Island families in our neighborhood that went to the schools in our area. So, we didn't have the cultural upbringing that I had when I was growing up here. And then I was very fortunate because all my kids, I've got 5 kids, all my kids are Australian born. But when coming here, we were able to provide them the network of the village raises a family. We were able to provide them a cultural sense of identity themselves, and we were also they also understood that what we were bringing them into was a core set of values that actually reflects across all our families. So when my journey with Sport Waitakere has kind of mirrored some of the stuff that's gone through as my own life milestones. Reconnecting with my own culture, coming back after being away for so long. I started a journey within a Māori worldview, which has also supported me in understanding my Samoan culture a lot better, because there is definitely parallels that we have. It's not exactly the same, and far from it, but there's definitely things that protocols, just life lessons that I've learned, being at Sport Waitakere, utilising my Te Reo journey has helped me understand my Pacific journey as well. The other big changes that we've had is that we've definitely moved from being sport focused to having a more rounded understanding with the addition of healthy families, Waitakere. So they're a initiative that's funded by the Ministry of Health. So having Ministry of Sports and then Ministry of Health merged together has given us a more rounded approach to our community. So we're not just going out there to pump up basketballs and show kids how to throw a ball. We're also asking them how they feel, what's happening in their lives, how are their families, or what's contributing to their lives as well. So there's a bit of a food journey, there's a bit of a well-being journey, as alongside that physical activity component. So that's all starting to merge together, which is I feel is probably why I've stayed at Sport Waitakere for so long, is because now I'm starting to get more of a holistic work practice that I identify with as well.
Yeah, especially these days with the mental health
Mm-hmm.
and the suicide rates
Yeah.
in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I think even more so with the government. I've heard they're being criticised a lot for not putting effort into the mental health. Or there's a lot of money being pumped in, but the results still the same. But it's good that see with you merging with the Ministry of Health, tackle the mental health side of things. It helps. Every little bit helps. So it's cool that that's the reason why one of the reasons why you're there for a long time. Sport. Yeah. So, man, I just wanna I just wanna get your opinion on funding, because we talked not for Sport Waitakere, but we were talking before we came on the podcast about how basketball is so expensive, and just last week we just came back from Wanganui. My son was playing in the Hoop Nation down there, and man, I had to fork out all the money for his fees, and then it seems like there's no help, and there was no help when the COVID hit, because remember when the government was giving out money to the sports, netball got some money, rugby got some money, basketball wasn't even in there. So, and the stories you hear like with why Steven Adams doesn't come back and play for the Tall Blacks, because no one looked after him when he was young, so he had to go for his own way. I think it was Kenny Mack that helped him find his own pathway. So I think, yeah, it seems like basketball does get a raw deal here in New Zealand.
Probably, like my answer to funding is that I'll kind of strip it right back now. So, if our kids wanted to play in any sport, what's the contributing fact to that, to the cost? A lot of it comes down to the structure of the organisation. So, there's nothing stopping us from, from starting our own, like yourself, starting a basketball competition. How many players do you need to start off with? You only need 10. You could actually only need 6, 3 on 3, and just to have a place to do it. And
that's so true. But people have started doing that. I mean, the Hoop Nations is that. I think Sefo with his First Nation basketball, the Polynesian basketball at the Trust, it does every year. So that's another one. But these are not affiliated with New Zealand basketball. These are guys probably frustrated with. I know there's Auckland City basketball. I know Lindsay Tate, he runs the Auckland side of things, and I think they've even got different clubs around Auckland. They've got the I think it's the Wolfpack, the West Wolfpack or something. In New Zealand. It's got the Auckland City one, and they play at Eggs, or Auckland Boys.
So when you talk about that,
yeah,
people will find alternatives on being able to play the game that they want. So like what is the benefit of being in a big organization with the structure, with the many structures they have to follow? Because the more tiers you have, the more money has to be accumulated to fund all those different tiers. Where if you took it back to a core and you said, okay, so my kid is only 12 years old, does he need to go to a big competition to play basketball, or would it be just better for us to play a local thing where they get to play every second day, rather than waiting just to play once a week? Now they've got an opportunity to play more times, to enjoy the sport more times, and develop themselves more. And what is that cost that they need to try, that we need to kind of to fill? Do kids really need the fanciest uniform to play their sports? Not necessarily, but who's benefit factor? Who's the benefit of having those fancy uniforms? Is it the kid? Is it the organisation, or is it the group that's supplying the uniform? Because everyone's going to get something out of it. So each time we put something into it, it's going to make our sport a lot more expensive. So like where we're here at now is we got to really kind of like weigh up the cost of having our kids involved in that specific sport, and like make the choices. Like you said, like with Pacific First Nation, they made the choice. Is this an opportunity where we can just cater for our community? We're not affiliated to anyone, but we're going to cater for our community, and then we can control the costs. And then, if enough of our community members turn around and say, "Hey, we can't afford, to play at the Trust Stadium, so where do we play?" We'll look for an alternative that isn't as glitzy as having this massive facility, but still it'll still be the same size court. It'll have basketball hoops on either side of the court. You can still play your basketball without having to fork out the extra amounts of money. It's when we start putting the extra tiers, that's when I feel that's where the extra costing comes in. But if we are true to ourselves and true to what we're trying to give our kids, then how can we reduce those extra tiers so that it makes it more affordable for our kids, just to be able to have those opportunities?
These tiers this is how New Zealand basketball is structured, because I understand it's good for the kid because they've got a lot of options now. So, but it's to me, it feels like the reason why Sifo and Lizzie Tate have started their own things because the main New Zealand basketball pathway is not really good. It's not a good it's not a good path. It's like if someone starts their own NPC, you know. Oh, we're not gonna affiliate it with we're not gonna be affiliated with New Zealand Rugby. We're gonna start our own club competition here. You know, it's like that. We don't have to because it's all sweet.
Yeah, and but that's the challenges that comes alongside making those courageous decisions, is that where you make that choice, you need to understand where that sits on where that next door is going to be, because you're closing the door to by providing more opportunities, you may end up you open one door but you close another, and you need to go in with it with your eyes wide open and be reflective of that, and then go, oh yeah, well, for this time period we're able to commit to doing this because we know that, you know, when our son turns 15, he'll be able to make that choice, and if he wants to go back into the system, then it will be his choice, not a choice where it puts pressure on him because his family has to pay an exorbitant amount for him to participate in a sport that he's just having fun in.
Mm.
Yeah.
It just seems so messy, the whole basketball situation in New Zealand.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the thing is for the kids to have a pathway to play professionally. Now, it doesn't mean playing in NBA, because, you know, NBA is the pinnacle. But there's other options, you know. You can go to Europe.
Yep.
You can play in those comps. You can play in the NBL. You can play in the Australian League. You know, you can probably go to China, you know. So there's all these other alternatives that I feel like there needs to be that option, just like what rugby does.
Yep.
Have those pathways to play overseas, from club rugby, go overseas, like play basketball here for a club and then go overseas and play professionally, or go to a college in the States and have a chance to play there. Like as long as those pathways are not blocked, even though we've got all these different leagues, all these different basketball organizations, gives our kids more opportunity to play basketball. But as long as there's that pathway to play professionally,
I think one of the big things that I've kind of I 100% agree to is that kids who play multiple sports actually are more rounded as athletes themselves. So, you know, playing multiple sports actually gives you a lot of transferable skills, and it also helps you develop a more rounded sense for yourself as well. So there's sports where you could be the individual. There's sports where you can be a team player. There's sports where, you know, where you end up being the a coach within your own sports. So you know, playing multiple sports is actually, and there's been heaps of studies on it where kids have specialized too early, and then they've actually either burnt themselves out or they've lost their passion for that activity that they were doing. You know, you kind of look at swimming as an example. With swimming, kids can be doing, or, you know, athletes that can be doing up to 30 plus hours pool time just for training. That's not even part of the competing side of it. But so that's a huge commitment. Depending on how old the child is, that's a commitment on the child, a commitment on their family, a commitment on the coaching staff, a commitment on the facility. So, you know, when you kind of look at how much has been invested in it, guaranteed people are looking for some kind of return. It's the same with gymnastics. Gymnastics is very similar to the time frames that we're looking at, and even younger kids. You know, where I kind of highlighted before is that it's that intrinsic motivation for kids to be active in whatever they want to do can also be the preemptor for them to have a more healthy lifestyle, to make wiser choices. When we give the kids the right to choose where they want to be and when they want to do it, that's us giving them the permission to do what feels right for them. And a lot of the times, we do end up taking that permission away, and so there has to be some long-term thinking about it. It can't be just what's good for now is the present day thinking that we have.
So what sort of sports around our West? What that sort of like? Are we? You know how you guys promote the healthy side of it. You know, with the kids, it's called because the mental health side of it is a big one. It's a big one. I mean, you took psychology, a part of it that uses a lot of that of your skills of that sort of thing. With our Islander kids out west playing sport, like, is there like, can you see other sports coming into the picture that we don't usually play, and there could be avenue there?
I think some of the stuff that generally our kids will naturally go to mainstream sports that they see their friends participating in, so they'll still stay around the netballs, the rugby, cricket. There's more openness now for recreational kind of sports, which is like CrossFit's a big one at the moment, and that's all like setting these mini goals for themselves to make achievements, to have personal best that they look to try and improve on all the time. On the well-being side, I think there's a real need for people to understand that we live in New Zealand, and our outdoor is our world, and that we can experience that as part of being physically active without having a scorecard that you need to place in people's hands. We're very good on doing bushwalking, doing things like kayaking. One of the things that I've noted about our Māori community is that kaimoana, going out into the ngahere, into the forest, is part of them as being part of their whole world. And so that's something that is very similar to us. We're in the island, like, we live off the land, and we know how if you treat the land well, the land will treat you back the same way. And so I think that's an area that we could get better at. And again, if we get better at that, then we're getting better at life. A lot of the times when we see our kids going through these pathways, they end up losing life skills, those soft skills that we grow up with. So, again, I take it back to Samoa, watching our kids, when they go out into the plantation, do they go out to plant trees, or do they go out to plant kalo, or do they go out and find a way to make it fun for themselves? There's little competitions that they play amongst themselves, but at the end of the day, the job still gets done. But they've learnt those soft skills while they're doing it. I think we need to get better at reintroducing that into our own lives as well, which will make us, which will help us guide our kids as well.
Especially when you talk about the kids, because in the news lately has been talk about those ram raids.
Ram raids, oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, out in the mall over here.
Yeah.
Like and And when you read into it, when you read the articles and watch it on the news, they talk about how, oh, what are these kids doing in the meantime? Like, and then I think someone came on the news, talked about how COVID's affected this because everyone's locked down. The kids aren't engaged in school hardly for these 2 years. We were on lockdown. And how do we get the kids engaged again? How do we get? Because I think after these holidays, I think a lot of students went back to their classrooms. I think AUT, I think they went back first day.
Like stats that we received for term 1, school wise, there's still a lot of schools that haven't even reached 40% of their attendance of their students returning back to schools. And there's multiple reasons for it. COVID is still around. It's not going to go away. Kids have, for some of our high school kids, families have had to make big choices, where they've had to make those sacrifices for their kids to go back into the workforce rather than to going into back into the school system. But at the same time, we know that it was the same thing happened after the first lockdown, was that we came back real strong. People wanted to get more active really quickly. We kind of started to ease up on our own personal kind of restrictions, and gave ourselves time to actually go out and have those normal experiences again. And you're seeing it more and more now. So there is an urgency for people to get active again, and it's just I guess we just need to be patient enough for it to happen organically rather than trying to force it onto people.
This is kind of like one of the setbacks for Sport Waitakere.
I think that's where that's like I talked about, responding to our community needs. So it was.
So that needs to be different now, or more focused now, specifically.
Well, it's profiled how much we need to put into health and well-being as a priority for the current climate. There's still kids out there that want to participate in competitive sport, and we'll definitely support that. But we also want to maybe explore how we can be better at providing opportunities for health and well-being. We're also looking at some of those those different spaces. So there's a lot of work that we're doing around inclusion and diversity, which were some things that were never on our register before, but now in the last couple of years are definitely something that we think about.
So what does that look like, the diversity side?
So we've got the rainbow community is a big one. We've got disabilities, that's another big one, and we've always kind of taken note of our disabilities and how can we be better at it. It's not an area that we're not the experts in it, so we utilize our relationships to help us there. With our rainbow community, again, it was something that we kind of we got better at the more time we spent in lockdown, because during lockdown the world opened up online. A lot of our meetings went online. We were started to be included in more conversations across groups that we hadn't actually engaged with previously. So that opened doors for us to open other doors. So again, I just think that's COVID's been a dark cloud, but there's a whole heap of different silver linings that we've been able to kind of come away with as well.
Yeah, those Zoom meetings are a big one there. I think it saved a lot of people money too, especially when people working from home, because a lot of companies save money that way because they don't have to use much power at the office. And a lot of companies actually scaled down, like took the office away and just scaled down to a small office, and half the staff work at home. But then when things get back to normal, I wonder how long that will last.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's very easy for us to fall back into into our norm, especially coming out of lockdown, because people feel that they need to get back into what they were doing before, and so I remember like we had done massive amounts of project planning, massive amounts of like our plan Bs, how quickly we parked those plans, because what we thought was going to happen, where everything was going to come back slowly, just happened straight away, and we just went, oh, we're back into normal. Let's start doing what we did before, kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you guys get into like promoting cycling in there? Because I don't know if you guys get involved with the city council.
Yeah.
For the bike, the
cycleways.
lanes.
Yeah.
The cycleways they're putting all over the city and stuff. Like I don't know, like seems like they, especially in town, because I work in the city, especially like taking away cars. Like you gotta pay for parking. It's been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare now. Like parking is like so expensive. You know.
So there's when you say are we involved in it, we're aware of it.
Yeah, but do they consult you guys with the cycling part of it, like as a sport, or as what you guys do? Is that part of?
I think for like what we're doing is like when we look at our community pathways, it's more about like access and providing like safe travel paths.
Yeah, exactly. So they would talk to you guys if what we, because hey, said we do what the public needs us to do. If we want cycles, is that they gonna ignore that? Or
well, it's like
if we don't want it, we want to use our car.
A good example is like Rosebank Road is quite an industrial road, but it also has a couple of big schools that are connected to it. So like in those areas, it's not so much like creating cycle pathways. It's actually about how can we create a safe environment for our kids to be able to cross the road, or for our kids actually just to walk alongside the road and feel safe. So there's lots of different studies and it's more that when we talk about this work, it's not us trying to influence on a systems. It's more us about like maybe offering insights or asking critical questions in regards to what we're doing. So the one in Henderson, that was definitely painful for everyone to experience. That
how much money went into that?
Yeah,
a failed experiment.
Yeah, and how quickly it went up, and how long it took to take down, and there's still parts of it that's still existing now. And
15 million. Yeah, I'm guessing it was. It was in the millions.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what were the other effects that gave? So it definitely had an impact on the environment that it was put into, but at the same time, it also raised the awareness of people outside that area.
Raised the road rage as well.
Yeah. So I definitely took an alternative route when I was coming through Henderson rather than going through the inside of town.
Because I must get a council person in here talking about it, because man, I just really don't know what they're trying to do. I mean, okay, I get it. They want us to, for a healthy society. It's good to ride a bike. I get that, it's healthy, right? But then sometimes you need to carry your shopping. You can't carry your shopping on the bike, okay? And then I get it. You want to be good to the environment. You want to take cars off the street, use public transport. Well, public transport is so expensive. Like you can't, because for me, I'm happy to take public transport, but it's like the same money I put in the bus is the same money I put in my car. So I'd rather have the car, which is more convenient, than the bus. It's the same amount. It's the same. I'm putting the same amount of money, but one's more convenient than the other. I'd rather be convenient in my car. It doesn't make sense. And if you want to do all these changes to the streets, put these cycleways, at least make it easy for us to take public transport. If you're going to take away cars, Yeah. So, I don't know.
I think our public transport system it does need a lot of work.
I mean, you came from Australia. How good is that one?
Yeah, like I lived in Sydney. I didn't even own a car.
Exactly.
So because I didn't need a car because the trains like were regular. They were like affordable, and there was they took you all of the network covered the whole of Sydney. So it was there was never any issues with public transport. So I think one of the downsides of Auckland being what it is that it outgrew its public transport system without actually evolving its transport system to keep up with it. Looking back now, like the changes that people are experiencing right now are there for long term impact, not for and doesn't take into account our convenience, because it's our convenience that's got us into trouble. It's our convenience for fast food, our convenience for like how many times have you driven past the house and like everyone in that house has a car, and there's like 7 cars parked out in the front of the house, on the lawn, and now they've passed a rule where they don't need you don't need to have a car spots for your house, and then building multiple houses on the same block which have multiple cars.
Yeah, I think those apartment buildings, new ones, no
parking,
park.
no parking.
Exactly.
But if they're going to pass that kind of law, it's like, well, look at the repercussions it's had. Now people are building these multi-house blocks, and there's no parking. What's going to happen to all those cars there? They're just gonna they're just causing another danger to the public. Hey, a good example I'll give you is for best intentions, which we've experienced, and I'll share with you, is the free lunch programs that schools have had. Has the best intention of providing a meal for the kids that really need it. But it also has impacted our community, so that a lot of those lunches aren't actually being utilised. So now schools aren't set up to store food, so they're trying to give them out to the community. Our communities aren't ready to manage the amounts of food that are coming back to them, so that causes an issue in itself. So
the kids aren't taking the food.
Oh, there's food there, but like not every child is going to want the meals that are being offered.
Oh, are they just fussy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, yep. But we don't want the food to go to waste, so we try and give it to maybe a community hub. The community hub is only set up to be a hub. It's not set up to be a food storage. And if they do store food, they don't have the capacity to get it out to the community who may want the food as well. So, one good intention has actually caused a ripple effect across many communities.
How many fussy kids out there?
I don't know.
What do they want?
When was the last time you had a carrot?
Oh, they don't want the carrot. They don't want the carrot and the apple.
The carrot and the
and the milk.
Yeah.
They want to cook.
Well, yeah.
Honestly, is that what's happening? Like, they're not even.
That's an example of like what it's causing now. Like again, if you responded, I did a few food parcel deliveries during first lockdown, and I actually looked in one of the food parcels just to see what we were handing out, and then like to the communities that we're handing them out to, some of that food is foreign to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like how many times have we seen a Samoan eat lentils? It's like
chickpeas or something.
Yeah, it's like do you remember what community you're giving this food to? It's like so again, a really good intention, but in 5 years' time when you go to grandma's cupboard and you open the door, it's like, look, there's 6 cans of lentils here. Where'd they come from?
This is a great example of who's making decisions up in the council. You got these Papalii making decisions for us, our community, South Auckland, West Auckland, and that is the direct result of what goes on, the mistakes. Like when I thought about in downtown, they want to take away cars or for all of us to ride a bike. So where's the showers when we go to work? It's gonna be showers. What's going on?
So we all just gotta sit there,
Yeah,
just let our clothes dry on our bodies. It's like, yuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these little things like I think that I haven't been thought out. Like, it's just amazing. And like, it's funny we brought up the Henderson thing, the intersection, how that incentive to that is so crazy. And you wonder, and I wonder why who the hell made that decision to do that? And well, no one else wanted to do the job. No one wants to do that job. So why not? You're gonna get some idiot to do that, because no one else with right ideas wants to do it.
Again, it's like is it a case where the people who make those decisions are not engaged with the community that they're making those decisions for?
But that's what the council's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Aren't they supposed to have those community meetings and feedback?
But then that comes back to us as a community. When these consultations are open, how many of us are responding to these consultations? We respond to the outcome. We don't respond to the design. So we're responding to the outcome where they've placed it and they've put that in place, but guaranteed there would have been consultation, and then it's not part of our normal life to be responsive to consultation. Similar to how many times, why do we have to run these massive campaigns around voting? Everyone knows that there's an election. Everyone knows that they're supposed to vote. Yet we have to run campaigns to get the community to go to the voting booth. It's like, some of the onus does have to come back on our community to acknowledge that if you want to say, when you're asked, you have to make a response to give your opinion, or else you're going to get things happen that you don't like. Because the people who do like them are the ones that respond to a consultation.
Yeah. Because you guys have the data, you guys have the engagement of the community. When the council comes to you to get the information, like, are you surprised when it reflects on their decision at the end of it, or when that does happen, when something you guys gave them, you see it was useful and it worked with the decision they make? I don't know what it is. Might be anything, but have you seen it go through?
I think one of my good examples is that I am the project lead for our funding stream at Sport Waitakere, and a number of times, I've told, I've opened myself up to the community to be able to support them, and then I'll get things that people will apply for where I know they haven't even looked at the information that we've provided, and it's not eligible for the funding. It's like, did you guys even look at I feel that you guys have invested so much time in getting your application, but you didn't get you didn't cross the first step, which is actually read the information. How many times have we seen terms and conditions where we've just signed and ticked the box where we didn't even read the terms and conditions, and then you find out later on, it's like, oh, did I just make sure that I've signed up for a 3-year warranty that's going to cost me twice as much as what I just bought without knowing about it, kind of stuff. Yeah. So I guess my advice is that if you want to have your say, be part of the design phase, and then that way you'll acknowledge when things happen that you were part of that decision. If you want to support yourself, be involved. Get involved and understand what's out there, because as Pacific Islanders, we are all living in two worlds at the moment. And we navigate that space, and sometimes it does get blurred for us. But at the same time, if we want to control it, we're going to need to be able to navigate it better than what we're doing at the moment.
I guess it's Auckland Transport that's running the whole cycle thing rather than the council, because I see the council's angry at some of the decisions they make. But has even AT come to you guys and talk to you about the community, whether they how many have a bike and cycle, and does your community want cycleways?
They've probably used us as part of a way to try and connect with community to get that consultation phase out. So they would have sent information out to us to pass on to our community connections. So it happens quite a bit where one of the real active organisations that's local boards for us is the Faux Local Board, and we're very fortunate to have a couple of ladies there that are responsive to our Pacifica community. So anything that comes out for Pacifica, we get notifications on it to pass on to our community. So we're only as good as the relationships that we have, and then what we do is we use our organisation as a leverage point to help get that information out. It might not, it's not 100% accurate, because, like, you know, I know that social media is a big thing for us, and, like, you know, we use our Facebook account as part of our communication strategy, but that is definitely dated for a lot of our community, and it's not something that a lot of our mainstream community access. So we've got to come up with other ways, alternative ways of being able to connect with our communities as well.
Is this something our community right now are shouting out for, in terms of what you guys provide?
Shouting out for,
or more than any other time. Or what's the latest trend these days? What are the communities after?
I think that's a hard question to answer, because our community, like, if you think about our community, it wouldn't fit under one umbrella, and, like, you know, depending on it's almost scenario based. So, like, you know, some school communities are really keen on having more engagement with externals coming into the schools. Some school communities will have still got the gates closed. Some of our moving into our winter sports, we're looking to help a lot of our community areas lift their engagement, because their communities are starting to return. But at the same time as they're returning, they've lost a lot of their volunteer workforce that was out there. So volunteer workforce is massive. Like, if you were to put $1 on your volunteer workforce, you'd probably be looking at maybe 5 times what your actually paid workforce would be doing, but it's all in volunteer time. So, you know, helping people come back into the system to be volunteers is probably one of the priorities. If we're looking at club space, giving them the tools to be able to work alongside our communities is probably a big thing that we want to try and do. Probably an impact of COVID has been a lot of our communities have reprioritized. So typical to the Pacifica and Māori community, reprioritize. Health came first. You know, health came first. You know, food was a big priority for families. Having a roof over their heads, financial sustainability was a big one for our family. So, you know, us knocking on their door going, do you want to come out and play, is not on their radar, you know. But now that things are starting to loosen up, us knocking on their door is more a case of, like, you know, it's okay to come out and play now. It's okay, you know, we're giving you an opportunity where you still have a choice whether your priority comes first, or you give yourself time to come and explore.
Mm. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. An hour and a half. So what's happening next few weeks
Next few weeks, I've still got this funding that I'm still trying to work on getting out. I actually had a really great meeting today with a Māori advisory group. It was down at Community Waitakere. So that will open a few doors of building relationships. I've got a team that's getting out there and reconnecting with a lot of their community spaces as well. Again, they'll be looking at providing heaps of just support, whether it be them being there or them providing resources for what the community needs. And then on a personal level, I guess, my winter season started, so rugby training started. I think we're probably to 9 weeks now, and we had our first game on the weekend, so it's definitely kicked in.
So you're coaching over in Ponsonby?
Yeah.
So what team are you coaching?
I'm part of the Premier team.
Oh yeah.
So we've got a real good coaching structure there. Very young team this year. Again, with a product of our own success. So we've had a few boys go over to MLR. We've had a heap of boys go over to Oz. We're not sure what the attraction is, but they're over there. Which again, as the players leave, it opens the door for our players that are coming through. So I think out of the team that played on the weekend, we only had maybe 4 of the 23 that were here last year. So real rebuilding year, but Ponsonby being Ponsonby is we'll work hard to get everyone back up onto the same level that we're used to as well. So yeah.
Were you guys lost in the semis against Eden?
Yeah. We lost against Eden, and Eden ended up winning the championship for their very first championship for the Gallagher Shield. So again, good props to them. But it's a new year for us, so we'll wait and see. We've got them this weekend too.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Because you're a big Auckland rugby fan?
Huh?
You're an Auckland rugby fan?
Yep.
Big Auckland rugby fan? Yeah.
Blues fan, Auckland rugby fan.
How good have been the Blues, man?
Huh?
How good have the Blues been this year?
Mate, we're as a supporter, we've been a bit like the Warriors for many years, so living on the high life at the moment.
No, we're not like the Warriors. We actually won. We got 3 championships under our belt. The Warriors got none. The Warriors aren't doing really good lately. I heard Cody Nicarita was gone. He wants out. They've got the injuries. Not looking too good over there. I had this. I criticize the Warriors because I'm not a fan. I'm not a Warriors fan. I support.
What's your league
Seagulls.
team? Oh, the Seagulls.
Seagulls.
Yeah.
Ever since Matthew Ridge was there.
Yeah.
But nah, man. I think they need to be sold or go back to Australia. I think someone in Australia needs to buy them, and they need to be based over there in Australia, because they can't get any players. No top tier player in Australia wants to come down here, move their family down to Auckland, unless you're semi-retired like the ones we had. Like we had Tate, but he was past his prime, So we only get those kind of guys or guys that all come for 1 year and go. Like we need. I don't know. The Warriors need to be over in Australia.
It's similar to the Breakers as well. Because we're playing in an Australian competition, we need to be. We almost need to be Australian to play in that competition. Like even like if you look at our rugby competition, our Super Rugby, looking at before we did the crossover. Looking at our team, we thought our teams will annihilate the Australian teams. The speed that we play at, the skills that we're showing. But Australia play an Australian style rugby, and it's not us playing against New Zealanders anymore. We're playing Australian, so the playing field's evened up quite a bit. Where we see the Waratahs beating the Crusaders, which people will be scratching their heads about going, how did that happen? yes,
I had my hands in the air for that one.
yes, they were missing a few All Blacks, but at the same time, they're a professional side, they're a professional team. Players, there's an expectation that those players, even if you're missing players, you'll still rise to the occasion. So, when we talk about the Warriors, when we talk about our New Zealand teams, we need to be mindful that not everyone plays the same as us, and that's a strength as well as a weakness that people on the other side of the ditch know.
I was a bit of a Warriors fan when they were called Auckland Warriors.
Yeah.
Because this is my city, this is my team, I should be. I get it. New Zealand Warriors, you need the whole country to support them.
Yeah.
But you can't support, whole country can't support a team that doesn't even make the finals or, for ages or doesn't win. Just like the New Zealand Breakers, just like you said. They need to be Auckland Breakers again or something like that. And they have another team if they want. But, I reckon I reckon they should just go. Because I don't really think if New Zealand Rugby League, there's something in there, and we've just given it away. I think there's a reason why Australians come over here and steal our players as kids.
Yeah,
because we've got the talent. We've got the talent to play rugby league, to make rugby league our sport in New Zealand. Have a proper competition. We've had the Barley card in the past. We've got competition now. The Fox. We should go all in on something New Zealand, but I think it's too focused on the New Zealand Warriors. It's going over to Australia. Like we should send them over to Australia and concentrate on their own competition.
the thing though is like even with the Fox Memorial and what we see here, it's all funded by Australia. Like they have the backing of those big Australian clubs funding our New Zealand clubs to develop the next wave of New Zealanders to come across. So again, like the way the system is built is that like we're always going to be the seed nurturing factory that will produce the next big thing, but the next big thing will be sitting in a team of Australians, not a team of Kiwis.
What are your thoughts on New Zealand sports culture compared to? Because I'm a big fan of American sports, and the reason why I'm a big fan of American sports is because of their culture on sports over there. Their fans are so fanatical. The media is so fanatical as well. The level of media attention, and it's all the money too. They get paid millions of dollars to be professional over there. But it's that for me it's that tribalism they've got over there because of that sports culture. It runs through school. Like everybody is affiliated to a university, even after you've left the university for so many years. You always come back to the mascot. You come back to, you're part of the school for forever, so you're part of that team. And I think that's why they generate a lot of money over there, because of the tribalism. Because they invest in the people. The people are so invested in their sports team that they'll give it all. They'll give all the energy to it. They'll buy all the merchandise, and the merchandise too. It's a big business too. So it's part of this whole sports culture they've got over in America. And I think that because I think New Zealand is such a small country, we rely on funding, a lot of government funding and stuff. But I don't know if we do you think that if we have a little bit of that kind of fanatical culture coming in through our sporting culture in New Zealand, we might generate that sort of thing where the people start to spend their money on their teams, and more money is generated through sport that way. Like harness that. Because I really think America's really good at doing that.
So there's two sides that I see with our sports culture. So I definitely feel that like we hold our culture, as in our New Zealand culture, as part of our front facing to the world. Like we love being Kiwis. We love representing New Zealand. We understand the tikanga of Māori alongside that, and so we're very inclusive of that culture as a national pride. So that's not making money. That's just us being valuing our us being New Zealanders in our culture. The money side of it is definitely is in like the system itself, the structures of the system, and it's not something that we control. It's something that is actually delivered to us, and we don't have much of a freedom to make any of those choices. The big difference that I do see, and it's something that I've experienced only recently, is outside our big city hubs. So like I know with my boys playing up in Northland that the club is the community, and the club is the hub for everything that happens that is connected to that community. So like,
and that's sort of like how the Aussie rugby league clubs are structured. Like if you go to Penrith club, it's a casino, bar, restaurant, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So and because I used to live in Penrith as well, so so like when I look at our rural community, that's where you can talk about, people live in the area, they play for their local area, they are tribal to their area, so there's this huge connection for them to be part of that hub, and it's got nothing to do with money. It's all about mana for their community, and like we're really lucky that when we introduced the boys to their Northland club, that they also understood that they're not they enter as outsiders, but they need to understand that to become part of them is to actually embrace all of it, not to just pick and choose parts of it. They have to embrace the whole lot. With like your example of Penrith, there's a whole funding structure that's part of Penrith. Poker machines are the driving force of most of the rugby league clubs over there, which is the one of the driving forces. They're on mainstream TV, so there's advertising that goes along. So there's huge marketing campaigns that contribute to having them as part of it, and then all the merchandise all contributes on getting the best players involved in it. So every club has the same kind of structure, and that's why there's a salary cap. So it tries to keep everyone on the same playing field. But in some cases, like people will know how to find the loopholes. But you'll have the ones that are diehards that will be part of Penrith or be part of that club, do or die, like our Warriors fans, and then you'll have the ones where they're in it for the marketing, and there's a generation of our kids out here who have never had any involvement with any NBA club, yet they'll align themselves to a team simply because of the marketing strategy that's been put in front of them. Yeah,
That's a good example. You see the good example of the Warriors fans because they are fanatical, and that's probably what keeps them the Warriors fans, even though they lose. But it's that kind of. I guess it's that kind of thing that I really want, because I'm a big sports fan. I want it to be here. I see what America does, and I want it to be here. But I know it's not our culture. It's not what we do. So hypothetically, to change it, we're going to change a lot of things, right?
Well,
But
it's like
entertainment is a big factor.
Yeah, entertainment is a big factor, but it's like where we have an American culture where they like to lift people up. We actually have a New Zealand culture where when they're up there, we like to keep them grounded. You know?
Oh, the tall poppy syndrome comes through.
So we would rather have them, go back to their roots and stay grounded. Whereas we make the American society the way it is they make these people,
Heroes.
Yeah, put them on a pedestal, and they just become more than just reality. They become almost like there's so many people that you kind of look at them as like these people aren't even in touch with themselves in a real life sense kind of thing.
I think we tried to do that with Dan Carter and Richie McCaw on some level. Like on Dan Carter, because he's into social media stuff, and he did that kick-a-thon recently. Like he's always on there. But like you said, like in America, how they had the everyone saw the Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, see, there's another thing we don't have proper footage of stuff. How much footage of Michael Jordan through his career made up that documentary? Like we don't even have that for. We don't have half of that amount of footage for Michael Jones. We always see the same footage all the time because that's all we got.
Yeah.
Like if we were to make a 30-for-30 for Michael Jones, it's going to be a short 5 minute 30-for-30, and just him talking about it. But see, we're not built for that kind of advertising or that kind of marketing, because that's all part of, because around Sky they have what's his name, Tom Brady. They've got an episode for every single one of his Super Bowls. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
The Tom Brady documentary.
No.
It's like an hour.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know how many Super Bowls he went to, 10 or 11 or something. There's a documentary on each of them. I mean, who does that?
Well, people who have the money to back it, and like, if he hadn't have gone the way he had, that would be sitting on a shelf somewhere. It's like, it was a pilot that we trialed, and we spent money, but if we had like they're banking on future earnings, not so much the earnings that they were going to receive, while it was happening. So future earnings, like that'll be, how many times will that come out? Every Super Bowl they'll probably throw it out another box set of it, and like, here's the legend, and that people will still be attached to for the next generation until the next big thing comes.
See, I know NRL takes a page out of the NFL with their stuff. They made the grand final a big spectacle, like NFL Super Bowl. They've started, you can see it with the band they have in the beginning and all that. They do it with the State of Origin and all that kind of stuff. And even the, they have the Immortals. Yeah. Those kind of awards.
Yeah.
The Dally M Award every year, that kind of thing. But I think, it makes me want to move to America. I love it, eh? I just love it. Michael, man, thanks for coming on the podcast, bro.
Appreciate it. We talked a lot about different things, so it's hopefully you understand that. Like, again, I'll restate this. These are my own personal opinions. And the fact that I have been able to share it's stuff that connected with me on a personal level that I'm sharing. It's and a lot of it, some of it came out the gate, like the traffic question was a good one, because honestly, I know how many people have made comments about it. It's like, wasn't us, man. It was not us.
I can see it. That's why I asked the question. Because did you guys have a hand in the cycleways? Because promoting sport cycling? I don't know. But thanks, Uzo. Thanks.
I've stayed up.